There are two instances to cover in regards to the this keyword. So the first instance, which if you're observant in previous sessions, you might have already seen, is when you are shadowing a field by a parameter, either the parameter of a method or the parameter of a constructor. So in case you missed it, shadowing is when you use the same name of your parameter as the name of a field that is within a class. I will use the circle class to explain this. If you want this code, you can get the link from the description. If you want the starting code, as we have it in this example. So this is the class circle, and then it has two private fields by the name origin1 and origin2. They are both integers. Now within our constructor, we have two parameters by the same name. So this is what shadowing is. When you have parameters by the same name as the field, we had already covered that in a previous session, but if you missed it, that's the definition. So in that case, if you want to initialize your fields from within your constructor using your parameters, you will need to use the this keyword, this origin1, this origin2. It is a requirement. Please note, when I remove it, there is an issue that is noted. So I'll just bring it back. This origin1 is the origin1, and this origin2 is the origin2. So the this keyword is used when shadowing. Another instance where we use the this keyword is when you want, when you are explicit, you are putting in explicit constructor invocations within another constructor. So in instances where we have constructor overloading, which is overloading in general, as we had already seen in the session of overloading methods, is when you have methods or constructors by the same name within the same class. So for example, let me just go to this one. We have this constructor by the name database, this other one by the name database, this other one by the name database. So instances where you can have explicit invocation of a constructor within another constructor is like in this example, when you want to set a default value, for example, during initialization. For example, with this constructor here, we have the connection string, the username, and the password. Assuming that we are working with the same connection string, you might opt to initialize it to a particular value. I just used the word URL, but it could be any URL here, assuming that the database connection will be using the same string. And then you pass in your username and your password, which obviously would change depending on the user and the password that they set in. So this is an instance where you might work with this keyword to explicitly invoke a constructor within another constructor. Before I show you the other instances, let me just clarify on this also. So we have a field by the name connection string, and in our parameters, we are using different names: start connection string, start username, start password. So if I was to use the same name as the field, then I would need to use the this keyword. So I just want to show us so we can all understand that this keyword comes in when the parameter you're using is shadowing a field name, in this case for this constructor. Otherwise, as an alternative, instead of shadowing, you can just work with a different name altogether, as we are doing in this. So there's this option of initializing of working with parameters that have different names, so you won't need to use the this keyword. Then there's this option where you use the exact same parameter names as the fields, where i.e. you're shadowing, then you use the this keyword. Okay, so the this keyword can also be used when you are explicitly invoking another constructor from within a different overloaded constructor of the same class. So another instance where you'd see this is when you perhaps want to set up consistency and ease in maintenance, so that you can just work with one constructor to initialize your fields and then you can reference or invoke that constructor in other constructors, so that if you ever need to make a change in the initialization, you can just be making the changes in one constructor. So reason 2 of why you might need to, although there are other reasons obviously, but these are the ones we are going to cover. So you might need to, when you might need to just work with initialization from within one constructor, and then for every other overloaded constructor, you invoke the one that works with the initialization, and then you pass in the values as desired. For example, in this one, so this is the original, or rather the one that we'll be invoking. It's accepting origin 1 and origin 2, and we're initializing that to the two fields to the parameters that were passed. And then we have another overloaded constructor here. It's accepting int origin, and we would wish to set that as the default value, or rather, sorry, the initialization within the constructor for origin 1 and origin 2. So these are the two instances, but don't worry, once we get to understand the concepts and have them out of the way and start to work with the, real constructions of real life projects, or as you would see, say let's go with a minimum viable product, then you will see how this is possible. Okay, so I guess that's it on this one. It's a very simple one. I will be seeing you on the next one.